What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with Howard Bender. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NFL DFS Playbook Preview Show. It is NFL Week 1, Howard. We've waited a long time to get here. All the redraft, all the seasonal, all the best ball, dynasty league action that you and I covered during the offseason. Week 1 hits, and we flipped the script. We're now full on DFS coverage. We kicked it off with the Thursday night football matchup between the Ravens and the Chiefs. Dan Malin had a great playbook out there. Hopefully you all were able to make some money off of his Isaiah Likely top value play. That was in his showdown playbook. We have the Friday night showdown playbook for all of you who are watching this, and you can go check that out before the Packers and Eagles. But we're all about the main slate here on Sunday. We got a big, 13 games to look at over on DraftKings and FanDuel. How are you feeling about things heading into week 1, Howard?
Listen, I'm feeling great about it. I mean, I've studied the offenses. I've looked at the personnel. We've tracked the injuries that we're following. Things like Jamar Chase being back at practice on Wednesday and Thursday is always nice to jump in there. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's week 1 is always the toughest because there's still a lot of questions that are unanswered for a lot of these teams. We're seeing, we've got 8 new head coaches, 16 new offensive coordinators. So there are going to be some significant changes. And so, while we go through it, the data always builds up better as time goes on. So, I'm excited to play week 1 DFS, but I will say this, it's not a week that I play heavily.
Sure.
Because of the relative uncertainty of a lot of situations. And I think that's one of the big problems that you get with a lot of DFS players who are especially new to the space, is that they are so amped up and they're so excited to play that they're like, I got to build a lineup, And the next thing you know, they're 20 lineups deep and they've thrown out, they've pretty much just thrown everything against the wall and they're going to see what sticks. And usually when you do something like that, not a whole lot sticks.
Yeah, obviously we're coming out of a preseason. There's a lot of coach speak about certain players and rotations, but we don't really know what it's going to be like until they take the field here. And of course, we'll go position by positions. We'll primarily break down the DraftKings slate. We'll build a lineup at the end of the show, but we will make some references to FanDuel pricing as well. Heard a lot of your feedback in our Discord. If you're not yet a member of the Fantasy Star family, you see that right up there in the top left or right corner. I don't know which way the screen looks like for you guys, but we have our All-Pro free trial live right now. If you go to fansystorm.com/win, whether you sign up for the monthly or annual subscription package right now, it comes with a free 7 days. So you can try us out for week 1. Hopefully, not hopefully, definitely will pay for itself here coming out of week 1. And you guys will be ready to rock with us for the rest of the NFL DFS season. It was just a few years ago. We had a millionaire winner as part of the family. Millionaire Mike took down the FanDuel Millie with just a single bullet $5 entry. I think that was week 3, Howard, right? Week 3 took down the Millie there. So we have a lot of great DFS content out. Howard Bender has the watch list. Our playbook is out already for week 1. That'll be updated, obviously, with all the news that's going on around the NFL right now. Dartboard is out. We have all of our DFS coaches that are out, specifically tailored for each position. Tell you guys what to play. Howard's got his contrarian and bargains videos out there as well to get you all set for week 1. So without further ado, Howard, let's pull up this DraftKings main slate. We'll break it down at the quarterback position to start things off here. Your top price starter is Josh Allen. This was someone that in season long we weren't necessarily as high on, but for week 1 DFS home against Arizona, where does he fit into builds for you? And what are your thoughts when it comes to spending up at the position this week?
I mean, I don't mind spending up at the position this week. Again, Buffalo is one of those teams that has a lot of questions to be answered. How is Josh Allen going to gel with his receiving core right now? You've got a rookie in Keon Coleman. We know that he's already got a rapport with Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid. Is Curtis Samuel going to play with his toe injury? And if he does, how much is he going to play? We know that, when you're using Josh Allen, you're getting that rushing upside. You're hoping he's going to poach a touchdown or two. So, against a defense like Arizona, the defense has struggled over the last couple of seasons, I think it's a perfectly fine play. It's kind of funny. I was doing the Survivor Pick article, and I do like Buffalo to win this game, but I do think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. And so maybe that kind of inspires a little bit more added work here for Josh Allen. So I'm perfectly fine spending up for him at 8,000. If I'm looking at like him versus CJ Stroud at 7,500, I think that they're relatively comparable. I would probably pay up the extra 5 for Josh Allen, even though I do like CJ Stroud. Divisional game here between and on the road for Stroud. So I'll tick the edge over to Allen.
Yeah, I think Allen in cash games also makes sense just because of the rushing upside that he brings to the table. They're 6.5-point home favorites in this matchup as well, with a game total of 47. So a decently high game total. They're almost a touchdown favorite at home here. And you mentioned Arizona, West Coast team coming over to the East Coast week 1 on the road. Certainly a lot of things setting them up for success. Houston has a divisional matchup. They're on the road against Indianapolis here. That one's got a 48.5 game total. Houston is a 2.5-point home favorite. If you're looking to stack, Houston kind of has some favorable stacking scenarios with CJ Stroud. Well, Stroud is expensive. Someone like a Stephon Diggs is not. And we'll break down the wide receiver position, but stacking is obviously key to our GPP tournaments. So it certainly makes sense to get some Stroud exposure. And as I know, our ownership will update as we get closer to roster lock. Doesn't seem like many are going for Stroud. It seems like if they're spending up, they have Josh Allen sort of in their sights, or they're going the quarterback opposite of Stroud in that matchup. That's $6,300 for Anthony Richardson. So Richardson currently sitting as the chalk quarterback. I haven't had a ton of early lineup build exposure to Richardson, but seeing that rostership kind of makes me feel like I need to get something. Just because, again, another guy that has elite rushing upside. Where are you with Richardson in this spot?
I mean, listen, for the price tag that we're looking at with Richardson, I absolutely love him in cash games. There's no doubt about it. You get that rushing upside, and it is a high game total here. So, to see that 7,500 for Stroud, 6,300 for Richardson, it definitely makes sense, especially with the added rushing upside. So I'm definitely in on Richardson. And you know what? I mean, I'll even take a look at Kyler Murray against on the other side there against Josh Allen. I know that it's the road, and I know it's a maybe it's a little bit more of a contrarian move, but. Sure. You're talking about Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr. You're talking about a strong ground game and James Conner, Trey Benson behind him. So, I do like Kyler Murray because he also has that upside, and, that Matt Milano is not, active for the Buffalo Bills. It definitely changes the dynamic. It opens up the rushing lanes for the RPO work. So Murray and Richardson are two guys who we were looking at for season long. They're also two guys who I'm definitely intrigued, for using here in Murray for GPP tournaments, sure. Richardson for cash game.
Yeah, I think another guy that I like in tournaments is Tua here at 7K. Yep. Highest game total on the board, 49. They're home. It's a 3.5-point spread. Tyreek Hill is looking good to go with the hand injury that he has. I guess the question there is Jalen Waddle and whether or not he's able to suit up for this one. Maybe that would adjust my thoughts here on Tua, but Miami Jacksonville, a game that certainly looks like you could stack given the game total and just the 3.5 point spread there. I don't really have any interest of the other quarterbacks. I did the quarterback coach in the fade section. I included both Dak Prescott and Joe Burrow. Prescott, I'm not really a huge fan of him on the road in Cleveland to open the season. CeeDee Lamb missing all that time during the preseason, a ground game that seemingly feels like it won't be existent this year unless they really get a breakout from Darnold or Zeke sort of turns over a new leaf there. So I think Dallas could be in for a tough opening. And then Joe Burrow, things are getting seemingly worse for him by the day. You get the T. Higgins hamstring injury that pops up, hasn't practiced now the last 2 days. And then Jamar Chase, just like an hour ago, is telling reporters that if he does play, he would expect to be limited in this game because of all the time that he has also missed. Listen, the Patriots defense is going to be probably the one thing that keeps them in any of these games. It's what's been keeping them relatively competitive over the last few years as it is. I do worry a little bit now about Joe Burrow's ability to put up points if he's going to be without his top receivers in this matchup here. So Prescott and Burrow for me are two fades if we're looking above 6K here.
Sure. Yeah, listen, I mean, you've got one, for Dallas, you've got one receiving weapon. Yeah. And you've got a fantastic pass rush, and you've got a fantastic secondary there for Cleveland. So, yeah, I agree with those fades for sure. Looking down more towards the mid tier, are you finding yourself interested in any of these guys? Trevor Lawrence opposite Tua. I'm not gonna. I'm not looking at Cousins or Watson, and I really don't want to dive into Caleb Williams as well. Mm-hmm. Just in his rookie campaign, is there any mid-tier QB that you like?
Yeah, I don't mind Lawrence. Obviously, on the opposite side of that Miami matchup, as you said, I think that one would be the obvious sort of tournament comeback. If you wanted to play Tyreek Hill but didn't want to spend the 7K on Lawrence because you're unsure about the Miami side of that game, then you go, or Tua rather, you go Lawrence and you pair him up. Christian Kirk is super cheap. You got the rookie there, and Thomas is also relatively cheap, so easier stacks with Trevor on the other side of that matchup against Miami. I'm not really shying away from Cousins here. Pittsburgh on the road, you and I have talked a lot about this. Their defense has always been better at home from a pass rush standpoint. So I don't mind Cousins, sort of the game one hype in the Atlanta uniform. They have plenty of weapons, obviously, to take advantage of that matchup. I'm with you, though, not in on Watson. I don't mind Caleb Williams because there's so much talent around him, but obviously he had some inconsistencies during the preseason. I feel that same way about Jaden Daniels. Daniels starting the season on the road, even though Tampa Bay's defense isn't, really that great, has me a little bit concerned. His rushing upside is really what's going to carry, his performance there. But teams know that Jaden Daniels is going to be looking to run at all costs, and a rookie quarterback that, sometimes tries to do a little bit too much can turn the football over. So believe it or not, Howard, I like Baker Mayfield at $5,600. I think Baker Mayfield, if we're looking at some value down here, home against a bad Washington defense, Mike Evans, we know, deep threat, another 1,000 yards, another 13 touchdowns. Chris Godwin moving into the slot. If I'm building a value lineup with a value quarterback, I think Baker Mayfield is where I'm looking to start things.
Yeah, you look at Benjamin St-Juste as one of the top corners for Washington, and he's just absolutely atrocious. So I've got, I think I put Mike Evans into the watch list, and I actually, based on some ownership numbers that I was looking at, people really aren't on him. I think I saw his ownership less than 8%.
Yeah. As of now, he's relatively under rostered. So again, we'll see if that updates as we get closer to roster lock. Usually it does, but if you're getting an under 10% Mike Evans, I mean, this is a guy that has multi-touchdown, 100-yard upside in this matchup for sure. So I loved seeing that play in your contrarian video, and he was as somebody who's already building out some Baker Mayfield lineups, getting Evans and Godwin certainly or in some builds of mine. How low at quarterback are you willing to go this week, Howard?
I'm willing to go down to Sam Darnold. I'm not lying, man. I think, listen, the Giants defense is not a strong defensive unit. I don't like their corners. I don't like their secondary. Their pass rush, I think, is average at best. And listen, I'm one of those people who, everybody talks about Sam Darnold when he was with the Jets. He's seeing ghosts and, all the nonsense that kind of comes with it. It was a terrible offensive line. The weaponry wasn't really that great for him. And Sam Darnold, was just basically thrown into the fire. I look more to what he was doing in San Francisco. And, he fit that system well. Get the ball into your playmakers' hands and do it that way. He's going to be like that with Minnesota. You've got Kevin O'Connell, who loves to pass the ball. We're going to see a lot of work. We'll see some checkdowns over to Aaron Jones. I think that's going to be perfectly fine. Justin Jefferson is an elite wide receiver. It sounds like Jordan Addison's going to be on the field. He's through that ankle issue. So, listen, for what Sam Darnold needs to do to pay off a $5,200 quarterback price is really not a whole hell of a lot. So, I would give a look over at Sam Darnold. I don't think, worrying too much about what's happening as a road QB in New York, because he's used to playing in the outdoors. It's not like he's been, in this controlled environment the entire time.
Yeah, I also agree with you here. Again, poor run there in New York. You had moments as a Carolina Panthers starting quarterback where we thought like, oh, like maybe there's something, they're finally getting the most out of Sam Darnold, and it lasted for about 3 weeks. And then he ended up losing his job there. But we've seen this Kevin O'Connell offense, Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins put up really good fantasy numbers at times last season. So I'm buying with you in the same thing, right? The Giants, quote unquote, strong area of their defense is really their front line. It's not their secondary. So I like that a lot. Moving on over to the running back position. I don't really have a strong feel on this outside of a couple of plays. Alvin Kamara is the cover of my playbook here. I'm liking, obviously, the new offensive system that's going to be in New Orleans here. His already has great usage in the passing game. We're expecting a little bit more out of him in the running game. He's $6,700, but I didn't find myself with the way my roster builds have gone spending up for a Taylor or Bijan or anything like that. Is there, a key point or two that you like about these top running backs?
No, I don't really think so. I'm a firm believer in Jonathan Taylor. I'm a firm believer in Bijan Robinson. And I even like Travis Etienne as well. I think that all three of them are viable options. Am I locking them down for like a cash game play? Probably not. I mean, they are pricey, and I feel a little bit more confident in other areas with that. I do love Alvin Kamara as a play against Carolina. I think that it's a rock solid option. You know how I feel about a Kubiak Dennison running game. This is not going to be the Saints offense that we've seen over the last 15 years. Right. Pete Carmichael is gone. Joe Lombardi is gone. You're bringing in Kubiak and Dennison. It's a run first scheme. They're going to use the run to set up the pass. They're going to take some of the pressure off of Derek Carr. And so, yeah, I'm a big believer in Alvin Kamara. I think that he's definitely somebody that you can take a look at. I like his rushing and receiving yards prop. His rushing yards prop was nice at 50 something. Yeah. I think it was like 51 and a half or 52 and a half yards. Rushing and receiving was up at 85 and a half. So, he's going to be an active part of this game. And Carolina's run defense, they ranked dead last year, and they didn't really put together a whole lot. They spent a lot of time focusing on what they were going to do offensively with, Dave Canales over there. That, I think that Kamara stands a really nice shot. I like him. And then right under him, I like Joe Mixon as well. I think Mixon going up against the Indianapolis Colts, who they've got DeForest Buckner in the middle of that, defensive line, but they struggled mightily against the run last year as well. This is the first time Joe Mixon is going to be running behind a fullback, which I definitely love seeing that. So if Alex Beck is going to be, pushing it forward on DeForest Buckner, it's going to make things a little easier for Joe Mixon to maneuver. I think that with, such a strong passing attack, they're going to pay less attention to it. And Houston's going to be like what Cincinnati did. They're going to use the pass to set up the run. If they can get out to an early lead, they're going to hand the ball off to Mixon a bunch.
Yep. And also Mixon has some ability in the passing game. DraftKings, obviously the full point PPR format there can help boost some of his values there. Again, I do think the 6K tier is pretty strong. I'm fine going if you want an Aaron Jones or, Raheem Mostert still should be the guy that gets the ball in the red zone and kind of, swap off on some of the early down work. James Conner, someone that I've been high on, Kenneth Walker, is going to get red zone work there. The one guy I'm not playing, and I think, I was higher on him before Todd Bowles spoke yesterday, was Rachaad White. And then Todd Bowles goes out there and it's like, well, we're going to play the hot hand. We'll see which way it goes. And, I don't really have a determined lead running back yet. And you have been championing this all offseason to avoid Rachaad White at his ADP. They drafted Bucky Irvin in the 4th round. It's not often that you look at a 4th round running back and think he's a legitimate threat to a guy that was one of the highest volume running backs in the NFL last year. But here we are. It seems like if Todd Bowles is also not willing to commit to Rachaad White, it makes it pretty risky to commit to him in your week 1 lineups.
And I love seeing that Rachaad White is, projected as the highest owned player right now. That's that's a little comical for me because, everybody's looking at that Washington offense, that Washington run defense, and it really wasn't great last year. But I mean, is that really where we're where we want to sit with regard to this play? I don't. And I think that I've spoken out enough against Rachaad White that Todd Bowles' comments about Rachaad White will start because nobody because we haven't played any games yet, but he does like the hot hand, and that does, to me, that speaks more volume about Bucky Irving and their thoughts there than about Rachaad White. So I still like fading him 100%. Maybe you throw him into a cash game lineup if you really genuinely think that everybody's going to play him, and you just take the $6,300 free square. But I'm not interested in him at all.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. Zach Moss is becoming a bit more appealing as the week goes on. If they're going to be without all those wide receivers or some limited cases, Moss obviously has the ability to catch the football. They could be utilizing the screen game here. He is at least going to start as their starting running back as well. So don't mind Moss. Zamir White's been getting a lot of love as well this offseason. Really the only primary running back in Las Vegas. Chargers run defense last year, not any good. Any other value running backs on your radar for this week?
You know what? I think, I definitely like Javonte Williams. We're looking at Denver being an underdog in this game. We're looking at what their, what their offensive system is with Joe Lombardi. The fact that Bo Nix is getting the start in this one here. Bo Nix ran a very similar offensive scheme in Oregon, and he loves the checkdowns, and he's going to utilize the checkdowns significantly. And if Denver's playing from behind, why wouldn't Javonte Williams be on the field catching passes for sure? So I think he presents a pretty good value. I feel like Jerome Ford presents a fairly decent value here against Dallas. I think that, Dallas definitely struggled against the run last season at times. And while they tried to, bolster things, it's going to be really interesting to see how that ends up developing. A lot's going to hinge on, what Deshaun Watson does, but I don't mind Jerome Ford, and I do love Chuba Hubbard. His rushing yards prop right now is, I think I got it at 54.5. And you're talking about Dave Canales, who loves to run the football and volume. And without Jonathan Brooks, who's on IR, I have no real, thoughts about Miles Sanders or Raheem Blackshear. I think this is Chuba Hubbard's backfield to start. And I think that he's going to get it. And the Saints ranked like 23rd in DVOA against the run, and they didn't do anything to bolster their run defense either. So, I kind of like, I think the Saints win this game. I think Carolina surprises a lot of people and keeps it nice and close. And I think that keeps Chuba Hubbard very active, who's also active in the passing game as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, different year, different system here, but you look at Chuba Hubbard the way he ended last year, right? 4 games of over 20 carries over his final 6 weeks there. Volume we certainly weren't expecting to see out of him, but nonetheless, he was getting it. Some under 5K darts that I think you could take a look at. Rico Dowell's down here at $4,600. McCarthy came out, said he's going to play less special teams this year because he figures to see much more involvement in the team's offense. So you have that play. You have Donta Foreman, who they re-signed in Cleveland. You want to think red zone work? Maybe Donta Foreman is able to get in there and poke a touchdown or two for Cleveland. And then we talked, obviously, the hot hand play. Where is he? With
Bucky Irving.
Bucky Irving right here at $4,800, right below Donta Foreman. So if you're anti-Rachaad White, you think Bucky Irving is the guy that's going to break through in this matchup, then good value play under 5K there.
I think you can also look at Jaleel McLaughlin as well. I think that he's, I'm more bullish on Javonte Williams, but you never know what happens here with the with Denver running this offense, and how big of a lead Seattle ends up taking. So, I think you can kind of just sneak a peek at him.
Sure. Yeah, and Jaleel McLaughlin was certainly a usable play at times last year, just sort of spelling Javonte Williams there. Some wide receiver news as we are recording here. Keenan Allen officially listed as questionable with the heel. So, something that could obviously impact DFS lineups as we hit the wide receiver position. Maybe a Roma Dunze stepping up now for some DFS value. But your top guys are here: Hill, Lamb, Jefferson, Chase, Adams, Evans, basically whatever stack you pick at quarterback, you're going to try and pair with the top wide receiver. Tyreek Hill for me is the one guy I'm looking to spend up for back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons. You're in GBPs. He can have the 70-yard touchdown. So give me the $8,700 Tyreek Hill here as the number one spend up for me. Thoughts for you on this top half tier 7K and above?
Listen, I was going to put Justin Jefferson into the contrarian pick, but I was looking at some ownership numbers the other day, and he was still up there today. On the other hand, after an update, now he's like back down there. So Tyreek Hill, I'll definitely be, more than happy to get him into my lineups, cash games or GPP. Jefferson, I think, is an interesting GPP play because nobody likes Sam Darnold. So, you can use Darnold Jefferson as like your little, Viking stack, and the value that you get out of Darnold kind of counters the price tag here for Jefferson at 8,400. So Hill, Jefferson, and then I go down to Mike Evans. That's like the next guy there. I'm not looking at Lamb. I'm not looking at Chase for DFS purposes, and I'm not looking at Devontae Adams because, I just hate the quarterback situation there.
Yeah, listen, obviously Gardner Minshew leaves a lot to be desired. I was at least a bit encouraged by Adams coming out and basically being like, everything you're hearing in the media is lies. I've never even talked to Deshaun Jackson for him to be saying I'm disgruntled and trying to work my way out of Las Vegas. Even if that's all true and he's just putting on the public face, at least he's not out there pouting and being a diva receiver there. And the Chargers defense all the time is terrible. And you say all the time as well, Chargers at home historically just disappoint over and over again. So it could be a bit more of a competitive matchup for that divisional game. I like the Evans call. If you had to pick one of Collins or Diggs in Houston, which one would you go with?
I'd probably just pay down for Diggs. It's not really that much of a differential there, but you bring him in, you're going to have to feature him.
Named him captain as well.
What's that?
Named him a captain as well. So
there you go. You paid Nico Collins enough money for him to stay quiet, right? Like, it's like, listen, we get it. We're bringing in Diggs. You're our guy. Yeah. Here's a fat sack of cash. Just kind of play through it there and be the better teammate than what Stephon Diggs usually is. So yeah, for 6,700, I'd go with Stephon Diggs. I got no problem with that.
Sure. With the Keenan Allen news, I know you weren't really higher on Caleb Williams, but does that put DJ Moore at $6,500 more on your radar if Keenan Allen ends up being ruled out?
Yeah, they play a different game. Keenan Allen these days is more of like, your move the change, your possession guy, your underneath routes. He's working out of the slot predominantly. So DJ Moore does a great job. I like Moore, and you know what? Believe it or not, and maybe it's a little on the contrarian side, but I actually like Amari Cooper as well.
Okay.
You're talking about, Trevon Diggs, we've seen him get burnt like a ton on the deep passes. Deron Bland is out on IR. Who doesn't love like a little revenge game narrative for Amari Cooper?
I like it. We know Diggs certainly chases the interceptions a lot, right? And I'm sure Deshaun Watson will float a few that will really tempt Diggs there to try to go make a play, and maybe he gets one over him for a big play from Cooper. Like seeing no injury tag on Waddle again. This is not listed. He missed time during preseason, like he wasn't practicing, but no injury designation, certainly a good thing. DK Metcalf is someone that we were higher on in redraft. Week 1, home versus Denver, $6,200. Offensive coordinator came out and says, we want to feed the football to DK Metcalf this season. This might be the cheapest price tag we see on him all year long.
This is probably the cheapest price tag you're going to see all day long. And then did you see DK Metcalf's comments the other day? We're going to run the ball down everybody's throat. He was he's like, you better expect that, which is actually, it's a really good thing because Denver did struggle against the run last season. We did see a number of teams really kind of abuse them on the ground. And all that's going to end up doing is opening things up. Let's not forget, Ryan Grubb is a former offensive line coach. He knows you have to run the football in the NFL to be successful. So Kenneth Walker will get that work, and that'll soften things up there for Denver. and maybe that's what opens things up a little bit more. I've got probably, I don't know, 85 to 90% ownership on all my season-long leagues of DK Metcalf. I'm 100% in on him. I'll have him in a couple of DFS lineups because I believe in him, but I don't necessarily know if he's like my number one kind of like, you got a must-have right there in your lineups.
Sure.
Patrick Surtain, right? I mean, we got to deal with that.
That's true. Next year is pretty good too. I mean, again, I really like Chris Godwin at $5,800. I think there's some money to be made on Godwin at that price tag.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you in Neighbors at $5,900? Obviously, he was making some plays during the preseason, but it's still Daniel Jones throwing him the football.
Yeah, I think it's a GPP only play for me. It's a little boom or bust kind of a situation. Sure. I think Neighbors could see, strong target share. But wow. Ooh. I got a cat who's running around here right now. It's unbelievable.
So we got earthquakes in California right now?
Well, it felt like an earthquake. She's a little on the heavy side there. She's my little chunky chunk.
Yeah.
Something I never had to deal with in the shed before.
I was gonna say, yeah, right.
Like now all of a sudden it's getting a little. Hey,
my cat shuts my computer off sometimes, so get ready for that.
So anyway, Neighbors intrigues me for sure. Godwin, like you said, I like that. Calvin Ridley could be intriguing, although he's probably going to see a lot of Jalen Johnson this week. Sure. So I might shy away in that aspect. You kind of look a little further down there. I like Christian Kirk. I like seeing him not having an injury tag on him as well.
Yeah.
I think he does. I like Kirk better on DraftKings than I do on FanDuel, simply just because of the full point PPR versus the half point PPR. Yeah. I think him and Evan Engram kind of take a lot of that underneath work against Miami and try to move those chains.
Yeah, I agree. I also like Terry McLaurin in that same range. I did the very early look, DFS, preview that we had when the slates were first released, and still sort of think that the price tag for McLaurin, sort of given the upgraded, what we expect to be upgraded quarterback play there. I also think, Howard, I don't know if you saw this, but this year FanDuel has changed their scoring. They have now added bonus points for 100 yards rushing, 100 yards receiving, and 300-yard passing. So something that they did not have before. So some of those, big play guys like we've talked about, field stretchers, now getting additional points when they go over those markers here. And Kirk being the number one receiver in Jacksonville at 55, a guy that certainly could get the 100 yards here if that game ends up being a track meet against Miami. I definitely like that price, and he pairs up nicely, as we talked about. Cheap Trevor Lawrence at $6,200. His number one wide receiver is only 55. So all plays out there. Value wise, low 5K and below. Where do you net out with these Buffalo wide receivers? Because they're all bunched together right here. Shakir 51, Coleman 5K, Samuel 4,900.
I actually like Shakir the most out of all of them. He's the only one who's got like a clear-cut rapport with Josh Allen, right? Keon Coleman, we've seen him now in training camp struggle to get separation. We saw him in college struggle to get separation. Everybody just loves his interviews. So, I'm not that bullish on that. I know that Curtis Samuel had his most productive season in Joe Brady's offense in Carolina, but he's also been limited with the toe injury the entire time. So, for what is it, 5,100? Is that what Khalil Shakir is right now? Yeah, he's 5,100. That's the direction I would lean for that.
Okay. Like I said, somebody's got to catch footballs. We know it's going to be Dalton Kincaid, but somebody else is going to be in right now. All three of those guys, super good values. A lot of hype on Jackson Smith and Jigba this year as well. Tyler Lockett dealing with some sort of injury that he's going to try and play through, but many expected the leap here for JSN in year two anyways to kind of take over for Tyler Lockett as that number 2 wide receiver. Good price tag on him, could be the cheapest we see him this season as well. Where are you with the value tier? Anybody stick out for you?
I like Ladd McConkey at 4,700. I think that's a really nice price tag for him. I know that Josh Palmer is also a decent price at 5,200, but I'll take the discount and look for McConkey to get a little bit more, love in this matchup. So I definitely like him. If you're looking for like field stretchers, some boomer bust guys, obviously Rashid Shaheed is somebody to look at. You could go to Brian Thomas Jr. if you're thinking that they're going to stretch that field against Miami's corners. And then I like Darnell Mooney.
Sure.
I think it's it's an intriguing one just because everybody's all wondering about Kyle Pitts and they all love Drake London. We all love Bijan Robinson, but Mooney's a good field stretcher, and we've seen him excel in that front, and we'll see what happens here against Pittsburgh. But with the passing attack that Zach Robinson wants to do, I think Mooney at 4,200 is a very, very nice price.
So Mooney's in the dartboard this week. Had he, it probably would have been an Impemba special play in years past. I am all in on Darnell Mooney. This is a guy that was consistently getting open in Chicago and just had absolutely nobody that could throw him a football to save his life. He had the 1,000 yards, a couple of years ago. And now, like you said, he's going to be sort of the forgotten man. And that's the detriment, I think, of opposing defenses here because he is fast. It's a pretty good route runner. And Kirk Cousins can throw deep. So while teams are worried about Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, you're going to see, I think, a lot of single coverages on Darnell Mooney. And he's going to be beating these guys at times. They're going to take some shots downfield. I like Mooney. And in the same respect, Shaheed a little bit higher up at $4,400. Again, sort of the same scenario. He's going to be playing opposite of Chris Olave. Team's going to be focusing on Olave, focusing on Alvin Kamara. Shaheed last year, he had, I think it was 5 games where his longest catch was like 40 yards or greater. So right there is 5 fantasy points. A 40-yard catch is 5 fantasy points on a single play. And now you're expecting to see increased usage and snap counts for Rashid Shaheed this year. So for me in the 4K tier, I think both of those guys in tournaments, especially because they have that home run hitting ability to go for a 50-yard touchdown. I'm a big fan of both of them this week.
Yeah, nice.
Value wise, again, we mentioned Rome Odunze. Now they did just get an update from Matt Eberflus that Keenan Allen is still expected to play despite being listed as questionable, but Odunze is 4K. Jalen Polk, $3,900. There's no clear-cut number 1 wide receiver in New England. Could very well be their second-round pick this year as a guy that's going to get targets from Jacoby Brissett and pay off the price tag. But then we go down to Cincinnati, $3,000, and I'll let you pronounce his name because I'm miserable at it. So Yoshevis, is that how we go about it?
Yosivas.
I think
he's a good chain mover. I think he's going to fill that Tyler Boyd role. And yeah, if Jamar Chase is limited and T Higgins is dealing with a hamstring issue, I definitely think that Yosivas is a great little play there. And for 3K, that's fantastic.
$3,000. They've already said like they don't expect Jermaine Burton to even really play this year due to his immaturity, I guess is the nicest way to put it. He's had some issues showing up late to meetings and not paying attention, and preseason games and practices he wasn't great. So they've come out and said their 3rd-round pick might be redshirted this year. Now that could, out of necessity, they might have to play him if Chase is limited and Higgins is out here. But I was initially thinking Burton would be a guy that would step up and have a chance to make some big plays if that was the case. But given the updated news here, Yoshevis at 3K.
Say it with me. Yosivas. Yosivas. This is like Joey learning French from Phoebe.
It's phonics, right? You got a Yosivas. We'll get it right. We have 17 weeks. We got 17 weeks for me to figure it out. Anyways, he's 3K. I think there's got a good chance come Sunday, if Higgins is out, he ends up being one of the more highest rostered players of the slate this week. So any other dart throws, value plays, or players of note for you at wide receiver?
No, I think that we've got enough mid-tier value and some couple of good pay downs that we can, we can build lineups without having to dig too deep into the wide receiver pool.
Sure. Tight end, then you have Trey McBride as your top price guy at 61. Kincaid is 58. Njoku, Ingram, and Ferguson round out the 5K range. Ingram is getting a lot of love this week, obviously, given that matchup against Miami and the season that he is coming off of. Do you find yourself looking to spend up at tight end this week, Howard, or as a tight end whisperer? Where are we looking to go this week?
I mean, listen, Arizona has traditionally been bad against the tight end. I remember, was it last year, the year before, everybody was like, oh, they bring in Isaiah Simmons, who's this hybrid linebacker safety, and he's going to be able to dominate in coverage against the tight end because Arizona was so bad against, and he was terrible. So, I look at Dalton Kincaid as definitely, I mean, if I'm going to pay up, I'll pay up $5,800 for Dalton Kincaid. I got no problem doing that.
I mean, he is expected to be the number one wide receiver on that team. So pass catcher rather on that team. So I'm with you there. Also, don't mind the Ingram if you wanted to go there. Pat Fryer, we've got paid today. He was the guy that we were high on in seasonal leagues. Do you have any interest in him in DFS? And we didn't actually, my mistake. We didn't even talk about the fact that Russell Wilson may not play this week. It's going to be a game time decision. I don't even know what a Justin Fields price is. Let's see. Where do we got Fields?
Don't even look. I'm not going there. I'm not using Justin Fields. Cheap or not cheap, I'm not using Justin Fields.
All right. Well, would you go Freiermuth regardless of who the quarterback is?
I would actually go Freiermuth. I have no problem with that because, who's catching passes behind George Pickens? They don't have anybody.
You and me? I don't know.
So yeah, I think Freiermuth, Freiermuth getting paid is a very nice thing to have. And and listen, if Russell Wilson does play, he loves the sideline routes, and that definitely favors Freiermuth, who really does a good job of gaining position in order to make those sideline catches that he needs to make.
Yeah. Hunter Henry, I saw, was in your was it bargains video, I believe it was, or contrarian.
Hunter Henry is in my bargains video for sure. I love using him. I don't want to skip over Kyle Pitts because I'm definitely intrigued by him against Pittsburgh.
Sure. Good to see him practice in full. I know a lot of people got the early scare when he had the little hamstring tightness there, but he said he's good to go. And we're all very eager to see if Kirk Cousins can unlock the talent that is in that offense there. Coop has brought up Zach Ertz a few times. Are you in on Zach Ertz here at $3,600?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't really love it all that much either. I mean, yeah, there's
familiarity in the system, veteran, tight end, rookie quarterback sort of deal there. Value tight ends. Anybody stick out for you?
I mean, listen, you could take that shot on Greg Dulcich and see what happens there. I think Hayden Hurst presents a little bit of an interesting aspect. I mean, we're gonna have to see what happens with the with that. I don't really, the thing is like, here in the first week while we're trying to figure out who's doing what, I don't necessarily know if I want to dig so deep into the tight end position. I think that the cheapest, I like what they're doing with Jonnu Smith, but again, that's a wait and see sort of a thing for me.
Yeah.
So
I know some people have talked Gesicki with the news, but the Patriots do cover tight end. Kyle Duggar, really good at covering opposing tight end. So even with the potential increased opportunities for Gesicki, I don't know if I want to go there.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to go there either.
All right, defense. Cowboys are your top defense. I don't know if it's basically the lack of belief in Deshaun Watson here. Bengals are number 2, though. Bengals are going to be your chalk defense this week. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett led Patriots offense. Many expect the Bengals to basically give up no points here. They're not overly expensive, $3,800. Yeah, they're the highest price team, but it's not going to be too. We've talked enough value across the board that they won't be difficult to get in your lineup.
No, yeah, I mean, I think that it's perfectly fine to squeeze him into that lineup there at 38. I don't think there's an issue there. I like the Vikings even on the road at 36. I think that's a good spot. And I mean, listen, we're looking at a lot of young rookie QBs making their way here. So Tampa Bay could be a nice defense to take a look at if you think that Jaden Daniels struggles a little bit. Seahawks defense probably going to be pretty chalky as well going up against Bo Nix.
Yep, I agree. Rookie quarterbacks obviously can make some mistakes. Seattle at home can be a tough place to play. We certainly know that. So I don't mind that. I also don't mind the Falcons here, especially I guess if it ends up being Justin Fields, right? But even with less than 100% Russell Wilson, Falcons have revamped their defense a little bit. They brought in Matthew Judon, can get after the quarterback. Falcons at $3,300 at home. I plugged them in a good amount of lineups here this week, and they were kind of the cheapest defense that I went. I don't know if you liked any of the other defenses down here or not.
No, I think that, I love the Falcons defense as well. I think that, adding Judon to a pass rush that has Grady Jarrett, I think is a really nice spot to be as well. So yep. I'm good there.
All right, let's build a lineup. Did you have any lineups going while we were doing this? Or
I did not actually. Right. I was just kind of hanging out and seeing what was up. But right. I mean, what did we talk about as far as who was the pairing that we were looking at? Where do you want to go? Well, I tell you what, you're the QB whisperer, so why don't you talk QBs here and tell me who you want to play?
I liked Baker Mayfield. I think we can do a lot by spending down at the quarterback position this week. So we did a Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans start to our lineup builds, and then we can bring it back with a pretty good price, Terry McLaurin at $5,600. And we have 5,250 now with Mayfield, Evans, and McLaurin. If you like the Yosevis,
Yo,
C.
Vash.
Yosivash.
You
like Yosivash. That opens up a whole lot of money for us here. $5,700. We both like the Falcons. Defense, so 63 a position. We were in on Kamara together.
Yes, we were.
And then you liked, and I checked off the approval there on Javonte.
Well, all right. Well, let's see where everything is, because obviously there are other running backs to enjoy.
Sure. If I had plugged in Kincaid, it gave us a $7,200 flex, which really gave us, whatever else we wanted to do there. But we could obviously adjust and go down to some value if we wanted to at the tight end position.
Well, I don't necessarily know if you need the value. We want to go wide receiver in the flex as opposed to a running back. Is that where we kind of lean? I like to, when I play, and for everybody out there, I like to play in my flex position on FanDuel because of the half point PPR. I prefer to use a running back in my flex spot. And DraftKings, I tend to build with, unless it's like a really strong pass catching running back, I tend to like to build with a with a wide receiver here.
If we went down to Kyle Pitts, we could get Justin Jefferson.
Ooh, there you go. I don't mind that at all. Kyle Pitts, JJ.
Yep.
I think that's a nice spot. Or so if you stayed with Dalton Kincaid, you get yourself take your Marvin Harrison Jr. for a spin.
It's true. And that stacks, obviously. So that stacks up better. So yeah, we can ride that out. No money left over. Mayfield.
No, I like the Jefferson Pitts one better, actually.
Okay, Jefferson Pitts it is. That's fine by me. Flex Jefferson. So our lineup correlation revolves around Tampa Bay, Washington, a little stack there. Baker, Evans, and McLaurin. Then we got Kamara, Williams, Sivash.
There you go.
At 3K. Justin Jefferson, Kyle Pitts, and the Falcons defense there. Rounding out our DraftKings example lineup for week 1. Myself and Andrew Cooper will be live here on the Fantasy Line YouTube channel from 11 p.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. Howard XM show Sunday. Yay.
Yeah. Sirius XM 10 a.m. Eastern. Me and Andrew Cooper will be there. All
right. So you got Coop and Bender 10 a.m. on Sirius XM to help you guys.
Let me ask you, when's your playbook is already out. When do you post the examples?
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning
example lineups will be ready for everybody. Dartboard is out. Playbook is out. All the coaches are out. So we'll have all of that available to get you guys ready. Of course, you can get in our Discord. The scroll's been running off stream. You got the thing in the top corner above us there as well. fantasyline.com/win. You get a 7-day free trial right now when you sign up. So you get access to all of our premium content and our premium Discord for the next 7 days, which means you get week 1 covered, including all of our DFS content, not just NFL, but everything we do on site for free for 7 days. So you definitely want to make sure you sign up now, become a member of the family, win with us this weekend, stay with us forever. Family Fantasy Alarm, fantasyalarm.com/win. Keep stumbling over the promo there to take advantage of that offer today. Howard, any final thoughts, words of wisdom for the people at home?
Oh, just be smart about it. It's a long season to go. So feel it out for right now. And listen, we'll tell you exactly when it's ready to start diving in.
Amen to that. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you all later.